What's going on in the chat? So you guys haven't seen these in a long time because I record a ton. You know those MidsWatches? What the heck? Try again. Hold on a sec. It's telling me the stream isn't working. Is this working for you? Yeah, we're good. We're good. Anyway, so yeah, if you've ever seen those MidsWatches we record, I actually record them live, and then we do them like as a bit of a back and forth like this. This is good. This is honestly, it's like the real work. It's the stuff that really makes me happy. There's a set amount of them. We're down to like the last 50, so we're at the home stretch. Trying to spill coffee on my white shirt before we go here. Anyways, so the way it works, we do some chit chat. I do some recording, and I do some chit chat. I mostly ignore you guys during the recordings because I need the footage. But yeah, and then you can kind of chit chat over the stuff I've talked about here, and we can get through it. So there's going to be at least 5. We'll see if I can manage to more. The first one is going to be, so the way I sum them up is the first one is explaining the importance of a come to Jesus speech, which is a concept I don't think I've talked about a lot. It's a very end of the journey red pill thing. The next one is the problem with stay-at-home wives. Like, wives need something to do. Damn it, I did too. Maybe I'll just move that mic there, and then we can ignore that coffee stain. Yeah, we'll do it that way. All right. Yeah, fuck, it's annoying. Typical, just put it on, just spill it down. The next one is going to be the importance of vision, which is going to tie into the book, Praxeology, Volume 1, Frame, if you've seen it. The next part is the transactional nature of sex. I'm kind of going to front load that one as a bit more acrimonious because we're going to bait some people into getting angry. But it's true. So you're going to like that one. And then the next one is what happens when your wife finds the married red pill, or all your red pill material. It's going to be good stuff there. Anyways, I don't want to do crowd work here, so yeah. I'm just going to start then. Oh yeah, I got to think of some funky little thing to start it off with. Yeah. Look at that. Got ourselves another unplugging post. Welcome everybody back to the MidsWatches. It's been a hot minute. I understand that, but that's okay. We're just going to get right into it. This, best way to put it, it's explaining the idea and concept of a come to Jesus speech, why it's needed. And I don't think I talk about it much because normally it comes, the chain of events is dread. Guy becomes, desperate in a dead bedroom, forms around a dread. From the dread sometimes comes something called the main event, the mother of all comfort tests. And then afterwards, the way of articulating your vision to your wife or girlfriend, that's the come to Jesus speech. So this one, again, the typical field report from username deleted. Most people just have 1 or 2 things and then delete their stuff and then leave. So luckily, the 80% of the guys that decided and took it and didn't try it and kind of quit can give us a lot of value for those of us sticking around. So we'll start here. You have been helping one of the guys in here with an oak versus the rock situation. I had one come up last night that I thought I handled okay, but her reaction was otherwise, and I would like a second opinion in regard to a way to make it handle better. Relevant backdrop. She's from a family where the stepdad is pretty beta, but somehow comes out as oak a lot. Mom is irrational at best. We had a pre-main event, I think, where she told me that whatever journey I was on to help myself was hurting her and our marriage. Basically, she asked about the gym, the starting to wear a shirt and tie to work, getting involved with extracurriculars, etc. That's about a month ago. And at that point, we had a fight where she was talking to me, saying that if I didn't go back to the sweet boy she met and fell in love with, she would leave, even though she fell in love with me. Internally, I lost my shit. I told her that I had allowed that boy to wither away because I was busy doing things that I thought would make her happy, and now I'm doing things for me that could ultimately make us work. Fast forward a month, following my male action plan, she's been doing a lot of the things I expect a stay-at-home wife to do. When she forgets to do something and sees me do it or whatever, she'll apologize. Usually, it's honestly for things that are not a big deal. Last night, I answered her in a shitty tone about 2 contradicting requests. Stupid of me, I didn't catch myself fast enough. She started crying. And in the last month, she realized that my love wasn't unconditional, and yes, in fact, if I am not happy, I will leave. She says she's been walking on eggshells around me to make me happy. So I give her a big hug and a kiss, hold her deeply and say, and she says, I need you. You complete me. You're my soulmate. And I respond, I love you too. I chose you. And I'm keeping you. And then sure, but you don't need me? And him, no. Give her another kiss. More crying, more hysterics about what I did say I needed her in the past. She can't handle the new me. I'm too cold. I didn't love her enough. She's been this and that and the other thing. So any thoughts or suggestions? I'll start with my thoughts on this, and then we'll get into what we had talked about. Again, this is like 8 years ago. So a couple concepts in here, which is interesting. The oak versus rock situation that I brought up, that's actually, again, Praxeology, Volume 1, Frame, it's in there. The idea of oak is that women are chaotic, they're emotional, they get spastic, they fly off the handle often. The idea of being the oak is that you can take this stuff. Like, obviously, like, what's the benefit of having a man in your life? Well, you know, he's more stable than you. So when a girl's flying off the handle, you being able to sit there, remain, calm, keep your act together, kind of walk her off the ledge is a good thing. But the rock isn't doing that because he's able to weather the emotional storm, but just because he's not aware of it. It's almost like being autistic. Things just bounce off of you. You're non-reactive. It's like you're not even there. Meanwhile, an oak, it's not moving, but you see the feathers move or you see the leaves move when it goes through. So that's that one. The next part, when he's talking about the irrational mom and the super supplicative husband, it's a very unhealthy relationship dynamic where you have what we call a type 3 captain. Or no, type 2, sorry. And that's going to be in Praxeology Volume 2, Dread. The idea of there's 3 different types of dysfunctional relationships that we've found over the past decade or so. The first one is a guy who's just basically a layabout and needs to step up his game. The second one is a generally codependent man with a cluster B personality type woman. Captain and is constantly complaining passenger. And that's this one. That's why his dad is so good at being the oak. Because he's just very good at taking responsibility for everybody else's emotions. Not the best thing. The next part in here is the hug and kiss and then the deep loving thing. These are just basic comfort tests. A girl, generally speaking, will say you if it's a shit test and I if it's a comfort test. If you've never heard of both of those terms, a shit test is when she feels sexual desire and it's almost like a verbal reinforcement. Like, is this a real signal or a fake one? Comfort tests, exactly the opposite. Have a good man. I'm attracted to him. I don't want to lose his commitment. And they'll always come out. So it's just like fundamental skills that you need to work on. I also know who this one is and how it ended up. She eventually got the boot. Just couldn't handle it, couldn't do it. Whether there was too much baggage behind, I don't know. The guy himself is doing great now. So only reason I mention that is because I like when guys don't walk into this with this 100% perfect idea that, oh, if I just do these tips and tricks and run some dread, I'll win my wife back and we'll have a problem-free life, because that's a covert contract. It never works. Sometimes you get your act together and she doesn't want it. Sometimes you get your act together and then you don't want it. And then for one reason or another, separations happen. There's nothing wrong with that. Longevity was never the case of success or failure in a relationship for a man. And we've always flat out said, like, it was never about fixing the relationship. It's about fixing the man. So now that I've gone that far, we're going to go into, again, prolific poster Jack Ten of Hearts came in with his ideas on here, which are different than mine, but still pretty good. And he's like, there's countless movies where the protagonist has some dick of a boss has insanely exacting expectations. But it's not the expectations that are frustrating, it's in the inconsistency. The main character bends over backwards, makes everything perfect. The boss still rolls in and finds some deficiency that's fallen short of perfection. It's frustrating to the protagonist, and then at some point they break down crying, what do you want from me? Sound familiar? And then he looked at the part where the guy was talking about how the old him was dead and she killed him. He goes, that's actually amusing to me. Like, I'm sure you got a lot of satisfaction out of your little monologue here. You want that sweet boy? Well, he's dead. You killed him. You told him what to do and he did it and you still shot at him. So now he's just me. How do you like them apples? Like, I'm sure you watched the devastation before her eyes and you don't really like to admit it. It probably felt kind of good. you know, use your analogy here, holding that bitch accountable. You're the fucking man, whatever. But now, after all this alpha male bravado, you have a devastated wife. You broke her, and maybe swallowing the red pill was always going to involve a shit test where you had to respond by breaking her to some extent. But now, she's coming back to you crying because she has no idea how to put herself together in the way you want. So what's the next move, Rock? You might have wanted to think about that before you lost your shit internally. Although, to be honest, I don't blame you. Married Red Pill has zero prescriptive advice when it comes to this kind of scenario. Some guys really don't have to break their wives, they just have to nut up. Other guys have to break their wives, but their wives are emotionally intelligent enough to figure out how to put the pieces back together. And this is why I keep seeing so many guys on here with a post just like yours, and half of the commenters basically say, fuck that bitch, this just proves it's working, keep doing what you're doing. And I just sigh every time. Now, charitably, I think it's because their wives were capable of putting themselves back together in the way that yours isn't, so that they don't have this perspective. Uncharitably, I think it's because some dudes are stuck in the anger phase and would love to have their own "that sweet boy is dead" moment. But I digress. If I really wanted to write about some generalized theory of breaking your wife and then helping put her back together, I'd close this text box and go write that. But we have enough scholars among us who can decide whether this theory has any merit. Let's get back to your situation. And he moves in talking about the walking on eggshells section. And we say acta non verba all the time, but I think there's a decent chance some of our wives let their hamsters run so wild they get lost in a hamster maze. This is your wife. You've made it clear to the point of being stupidly explicit that you don't need her, you do want her. What you failed to do is communicate the answer to the question, what can she do to ensure that he'll always want me? This is the come to Jesus speech when I talk about it. This is breaking the script here for a minute. The come to Jesus speech. Dread is about not taking yourself for granted. Dread is about doing what you have to do to get your place in a marriage where you have the hierarchical power and then she submits. Great. Some girls put themselves back together, some do not. And this has happened a few times since then. So this was the first time it kind of came out, but it's come out more. And for these situations, guys realize, and it's funny because all of the advice that you get from like blue-pilled guys, just tell her this and tell her what you want. It only comes at the end of this. The only way she'll listen is you essentially have to break the paradigm. And I know he calls it breaking as if you're breaking in a horse, and to some extent it's kind of true. And yeah, it seems like it's fairly extreme, but I mean, I don't know if you've been out there, but there's a lot of relationships that are just dog shit. So yeah, sometimes hard stuff like this is needed. If you wanted soft and comfortable, you should have watched Dr. Phil. You shouldn't have come here, but hey, it works. And Jack continues, this is extremely difficult to communicate with actions and not words. At some point, a lot of us are going to get what's called a shitty comfort test. A hysterical wife who just sees her husband putting emotional distance between them and seems only eager to put more and more distance. So in her mind, where does that end? Until you're finally just co-parents? Until you're strangers sharing a mortgage? Until she gets divorced? It's not exactly irrational for some women to wonder, where is this going? And he goes, I've found hysterics like this are easily mitigated with the right words. And a long time ago, I had the I want you, need you conversation with my wife. She loves Shakespeare and has some stupidly idealized notions of love, so I used some Shakespeare analogy, and it worked great with her. So give your actions context in terms of a plan. You have a plan. You have family plans, you have financial plans, you have professional plans, social plans, travel plans. We all have one life and we want to make the most of it. And any changes in your behavior are because you realize that, not because she acted particularly shitty. You want her to be a part of those plans, and now those plans involve her. But anybody following those plans needs to meet a higher standard. So you're holding yourself to a higher standard, which means you're going to hold her to a higher standard if she wants to follow her plan. Remember when I mentioned before in the book, through your work comes from your work comes authority, from your authority comes expectations. This is the stuff I'm talking about. This is the part that adds to the vision. Anyways, and then following up, if you can't make her follow those plans, you can't make her raise her game, so to speak, but you want her to, because the only way this works is if she wants the same things. If she feels like she needs to do this, then she'll be upset and resentful, kind of like how she is now. Again, these plans you have will only be successful if she wants to follow them, because want is more powerful than need. And I'm sure some guys up here will read these statements and think they sound way too much like a beta male. Well, that's kind of the fucking point. Again, a shitty comfort test means there needs to be comfort. She's freaking out because your actions have no context that she can figure out. So all you have to do is give your actions a context that's consistent, that she understands, that she can operate under. Again, I've talked about it before, and it's going to be in book 2 when I talk about the scoreboard, how the first step is getting out of your wife's frame, building your own frame, and then pulling your wife into your frame. This is what he's talking about, the part 3, advanced level stuff. And it's not easy, and there's not a lot of work that's been done on it. So at best, you're going to get like a broad set of directions. That's why the building your own frame stuff is so important, because you're going to be the tip of the spear. Anyways, you may notice that you can substitute the word frame for context in the previous sentence. That's on purpose. To phrase it another way, you're generating a lot more dread than you realize, but that dread is unfocused. She literally told you that she knows she has been shit. She knows she needs to stop being shit, but she has no idea where to start. I think it's time to oak up and let her know. To sum up, running dread is an amazing skill set. It's a great little thing that the Married Red Pill guys have come up with over a decade. You build upon your own frame. Dread is the process of learning not to be taken for granted. Now, this stuff is great, and it's all involved you for the first, year, 2 years, however long you've been at it. But there reaches a point where you actively have to have that other person, that partner. Your wife's decided she's on board with it. She doesn't know where to start. Sometimes you have to lead. Sometimes you have to break down feminist propaganda inside of her head. Sometimes she's just stubborn and refuses to quit until she ends up having a crying fit in the kitchen. Whatever it is, just be prepared. At that point, you've built yourself up. I've said it 100 times. Your goal over the next year, if you don't have a vision, is to give yourself as much value as you can, build yourself as much abundance as you can to let that guy start making the hard decisions. And in this case, everything is going well, and the hard decisions involve how does the wife fit into this new vision? And you got to come up with it, and you got to give it context. Otherwise, all you're doing is just giving a list of demands that she has to follow under threat of divorce. So I will catch you guys on the next one. Hope you enjoyed yourself. Cheers. All right. Don't mind me. I have to quickly do some renaming. I got a good system. So when I record these ones. There she is. I name them after my checklist of things that I still have to do. And if I do it right, then it makes the recording so much easier. Otherwise, I'm hunting for posts. That's 60. All right. Then let's chill. Let's chill for a bit. Let's chit chat. Put you here. How's everybody been doing so far? Oh, look at this. Keep the MidsWatch coming. Well, there's going to be a set amount of them. Most of the content I have is actually, it's a set amount. So you're never going to get infinite. Like I said, we're on to about the last 60. Just when I thought I'd seen every red pill piece of content was getting worried, Ryan to the rescue. No worries, sir. Like I said, we still got a bit to go. This is actually going to have to be finished anyway, because I have a feeling by the time I finish Dread, I'll have gone through all the concept anyway. So at least a second walkthrough is going to be important. Really repping the T-Rex merch lately. Yes, that's right. If you guys haven't, go to store.ryanstone.com. We have Red Morning, the merch. Shirts, mugs, all that stuff for the goddamn best podcast from the 80% white guy who doesn't need you anyway, sir or madam. I don't know if you're allowed to say anymore. Yeah. Well, here, Gen Z, when you say always be willing to jump ship, like we're past that. We're past all the bravado stuff. This is the point where you've done all the work and everything's working out for you. Now, obviously, in the case that I told you before, the guy didn't. He decided to leave. She just wasn't able to keep up. That's just the way it works, man. What if we enjoy our wives freaking out about our self-improvement and breaking apart? Does that make me a psychopath? No, it makes you petty. It's a revenge fantasy thing. There's actually a nice post back in the day about revenge fantasies make you beta with something like that. Essentially, it's just some way of you feeling like there's some kind of just world. It's no different than Myron and all those goofballs talking about, teaching that bitch a lesson. That's really all it is. Everybody does it, but you really should aim to move past it. No, I don't know what Ryan versus Jeffernotova is. If you're going to ask me about content creators, I generally don't know. I don't care. I don't watch them. Like even Twitter, I have to start blocking people now or muting religiously because it's fun at first, but it starts to influence what kind of work I want to do, and that's where I kind of draw the line. Anyways, let's keep that throat going. I'm trying to do as many as I can before my throat thins out here, but next one's going to be fun. It's going to be Zach. That's like 1,000 different episodes, man. Boxing match, liver shot. Yeah, liver shots suck. They knock you right on your ass. So the next one's going to be, what is it? Oh, about the problem with stay-home wives. It's a short one, though, so you'll like it. Ue ma recording. Everybody's so psyched for their stay-at-home wife until they realize there's nothing to do because we invented the dishwasher. Welcome back, guys. MidsWatch, Ryan, you know the deal. This one's a nice short one. Wife is asking husband to control her, and he's getting kind of annoyed. He doesn't like this idea, and it's the idea of why praxeology, the dominant male, was such a good post we had from the Red Pill. Ian Ironwood talks about how the dual income household is kind of the norm now, and that we don't really need barefoot and pregnant wife at home. Because what a lot of guys are finding out is because we've invented things that make life very easy. Dishwashers, washing machines, there's always heats going, ovens cook things, instant food. A lot of stay-at-home wives are just bored. And when women are bored, they do stupid things. And so it becomes like this double task where a guy both has to keep himself productive at work and then come home and entertain his wife, or she'll get bored and sleep with the pool boy. I'm here to tell you, it's not your job to keep the peace, and perhaps having her in the workforce isn't the worst thing ever, but the post is a little bit different. So, simple format. I go through his field report, give my thoughts on it, chime in with, again, prolific poster, Jack 10 of Hearts, and then we summarize what we learned for the day. So let's get to it. So the wife wants me to control her phone like she's a teenager. What do you think of my approach? Things are going well. I'm steadily unplugging. The male action plan is going along. I'm fogging like a champ and passing shit tests left and right. I gave out of fucks to give, or I ran out of them, and that caused me to miss a few comfort tests, but that's what fogging is for. I swear the more that I unplug, the more I realize my wife has been begging me to swallow the red pill for 6 to 7 years now, which brings me to my point. She's as addicted to checking celebrity news on her cell phone to the tune of 3 hours a day. She knows this, but she can't stop. We bought an electric safe to keep our devices locked when we get home, but it doesn't stop her from opening the thing up and checking the celebrity BS sites. She also recently found out about porn videos that are online from a female acquaintance of hers and clicked them, and of course she got lost in a porno pop-up purgatory. It was at this point she asked me to install software on her phone to limit the internet use and prohibitively naughty website browsing. She's not even on social media at all. She uses her phone for email and celebrity BS only. So I installed something that limits her browsing to 10 minutes a day, YouTube to 10 minutes a day, and I'm searching for an email newsletter that will update her once a week on her favorite celebrities. Get it condensed. I haven't put any restrictions on my phone, but I also do not use it for hours upon hours like she does. And since taking the pill, I've quit all gaming, time-wasting, distractions away from the phone or the computer. The app is fucking hilarious, though, in that when I hit the browsing limit, it says, talk to a parent. At this point, I figure I'll increase the browsing time a bit at a time on the weekends and not change anything unless she brings it up. Your thoughts? My thought on this one is, before we get started, I cannot stand when wives offload the responsibility of living their own life and their own emotional security onto the husband. I think it's a horrible overreach for expectations of a wife and husband. I talk often about how guys put entirely too much responsibility onto their wives that they don't want and can't handle. Like, she needs to be their confidant, she needs to be their lover, she needs to be their nurturer, like their mother. basically roles that you would have 5 or 6 different groups of people in your life fill, and they think the wife can handle all of them. Meanwhile, the wife doesn't want any of them. She can't handle the jobs, and it's brutal. But again, it's not just guys that are bags of shit here. There's women that are doing this too, and in this one's the case. I don't have impulse control. I'm addicted, and I don't know how to stop. Therefore, you need to fix it for me. Now, it's common that after guys have taken that first red pill, they start to, start doing their stuff. I've talked before about the 3 different captains of the red pill, and this is type 1. Girl just sees a guy stepping up and she toes the line. She thinks it's great. I've been waiting for this guy to come back. It's awesome. That's what he mentions when my wife was waiting for me to find the red pill for the last 6 to 7 years. She wants a guy to defer to, but now the problem is she's like a neurotic passenger and expects him to fix everything. So generally speaking, how do you fix this? I'll leave that to Jack. A little philosophy I have: the best way to replace consumptive behavior is productive behavior. Problem with smartphones is it makes it so damn easy to consume. Consumptive habits are like junk food. You mentioned you had a very disciplined meal plan with your family. Let's say you went out of town for the week. Would your wife cook and prepare meals to a similar extent? I think they would. I think they would internalize the discipline, and even though it's easier to consume a bag of chips and a grilled cheese sandwich, the latter is more healthy, filling, and delicious. So I don't think your long-term solution involves anything with parental controls or Wi-Fi settings. I think you just need to get your family in the kind of good habits that come along with your already cooking. I mean, really, your wife just needs a goddamn productive hobby. If she's giving you enough authority to basically treat her like a child, that should mean you have zero resistance if you sit down with her and basically tell her to take up some hobbies. I'm sure at some point over your marriage, she said something like, "Wow, I'd love to have a talent like that," or "I wish I had more time to this," or something. So tell her nothing's stopping her from any of that. The 20 hours a week she spends reading tabloid junk are 20 hours she could spend on those hobbies. Or hell, 16 of those hobbies spent on something new and 4 hours on TMZ shit. This electronic safe doesn't work because she probably really doesn't have anything else to fill that time with except for chores, which suck, and more consumption like watching TV, so put an end to it. Hopefully, you've explored some of your own hobbies. So avoiding this consumptive behavior will make it very easy to drop this behavior as a family. My wife and I are often tempted to blow the weekend binging on Netflix. The easiest way to put a stop to another episode is to say, maybe later, I want to get into the garage and get back to the bookshelf I was working on. Maybe she'll pout a bit and say, fine, maybe I can finally finish Gone Girl with my book club next week. Soon enough, your wife's tabloid trash habit will turn from daily obsession to occasional indulgence. So to sum this one up, stay-at-home wives are bored, and bored people do stupid things. If you're lucky, she's just looking at celebrity gossip. If you're not lucky, she's schlepping the pool boy. Part of this, once you get your act together, run your case of dread, the girl wants to defer to you, be submissive, is they make you their everything. And that's not the role. It's not the role, because then they get bored and there's nothing to do and they fill it with self-destructive behavior. So think about these kind of things. You might have to push your wife to go out and see her friends again. You haven't seen your friends in a while. Basically kick her out for a play date. Get her off her phone to do other things. Meal plans, workout schedules, all this stuff is great. Hobbies, things she wants to do, they don't have to be with you. They can be away from you. A good example in my life, my girl, she loves riding bikes. So she picked up the Ride to Conquer Cancer this year. It's another couple 100 kilometers, whatever. So now she's got something that fills her time during the weeks. Beyond that, she likes reading books, so she'll grab books. And yeah, like every girl, she'll know about the latest is Love is Blind or all that nonsense, but that's an occasional indulgence. That's literally after the bike ride. Everybody's too tired to move. Her legs are like jelly. So yeah, she'll sit down and watch that. And it becomes a much better solution to this stuff than, putting an iPhone lock on her phone, ultra controlling behavior, treating her like a child. If you wanted another dependent, you would have just had another kid. It's always funny because guys easily hear it all the time, and they can understand when a wife says, I don't need another dependent, I want a husband. But then when they see the alternative, they're more than happy to turn her into daughter number 4, when what they really need to do is just give her something to do. So like I said, it's a short one. Enjoy yourselves, boys. I'll catch you guys on the next one. Cheers. All right, give me a second. What was that one again? 6059. I guess we don't need you two anymore. There. Yeah, well, and Allie's right. She's like, for real, get a hobby or a job. True, but sometimes as a guy, you kind of have to like push her out the door. Same as like, I don't know if they do this anymore, but they used to do this when you were a kid, and like when you're 18, you're out of the house. And that was it. It's not that you didn't love your kid. It's not that anything. It's just like your kid wasn't going to try to make anything of his life while he was staying at home. So you physically kicked him out and forced him to make plans. They figure it out. I'd like to see a compilation of all those. Oh, yeah. You're not going to get that, Zach. You're going to get the synopsis into a book. That's the best you're going to get, sir. I just give her more tasks that require more time with the repercussions, no attention. If she doesn't do them, no beef Wellington. I'll be at the gun club, miss. Hey, you know what? I do have friends, their wives were like into baking, which I wouldn't say is a good one because they also kind of got fat over the years, but baking is like a rather complex art and hobby, so. Yeah, my wife's always lying around bored, kind of too sexy anything to do, gave up, realized that's her job. It is, but sometimes you just got to kick the kids out of the house when they're 18, right? El Chino, $4.99 super chat. How many FUs does this get? Actually 0, because you were smart enough to add the penny or take the penny away from it. Oh, thank God. You know what they say? Lazy wife, crazy life. Yeah, that's the way it works. Surprisingly, too, a lot of guys don't understand. Like things that I talk about, like manufactured outrage, really help with that kind of thing. It, because your wife's going to have a certain amount of drama she likes in the day. So if you manufacture a little bit over some nothing, it's much more proactive than just sitting here waiting for a blow up and then starting to deal with it by being the super duper alpha male, you know? Some are looking for one that cooks and cleans. Actual adults are looking for something to actually do. Yeah, cooking and cleaning doesn't take your whole day. Torsha got lucky on that front. Loves to bake with a crazy high metabolism. Well, Torsha's what, like 23? Everybody has a super high metabolism at 23. Let's say she does at 33. Remember that. Every girl, as I get older, I've seen it. Every girl has that moment when they hit like 29, 30, and their metabolism slows down. They're like, I don't get it. I used to be able to eat like this and nothing. It's like, yeah, well, people get older. Metabolism slow down. You have to work for it now. El Chino, $9.99 super chat. Dude, that's twice you've managed to dodge the cuck articles. Good on you, sir. Good on you. Boomer acquaintance of mine. Left to start her stay at home. She's 30. Jesus. She's 28. Fair enough. Play roughhousing with the wife. Well, Mohammed, it's more about long-term stuff. Like, girls need something to do. This is why I am surprised the trads have so much beef with, like, working wives. Say what you will about boss bitches, but there's clearly, like, girls clearly have a need for some forward motion in the hobbies and stuff in their life. And yeah, a career for a lot of people gives them, like, that extra bit of purpose that they otherwise wouldn't get from motherhood or wife, you know what I mean, or family member. So sometimes, yeah, you get to let them be boss bitches. And it's funny because every VP and higher I've met in the companies I worked for, they all had like 4 kids, 3 kids. Like, it wasn't exactly like they weren't taking time off. They just in between that, they were just running companies. You can't do it all. Well, you don't have to do it all. You don't have to be the girl running the company. You can very easily just stay in your director role and be perfectly happy. Hell, you could probably stay in your senior analyst role if you really wanted to. You don't even have to go to manager. That's what I like. Like, my girl's right now whining and dining and doing whatever it is business people do, and she seems super happy and excited about that stuff, so whatever. Jason, can I get to this one, man? You have to ask me on a different stream. This one we're strictly doing married red pill concepts here. I could never get married, having a responsibility, having to entertain your... Well, that's kind of the point I'm getting at here. And it's not marriage, Gen Z. It's relationships. And yeah, you don't have that responsibility. She demands it from you because she doesn't know any better. It's your job in the relationship to set terms and boundaries. In this case, it's you need to have a fucking hobby. You need to have friends. You need to not make me your whole world because I cannot live up to the role that 8 or 9 people are going to fulfill in your life. Ryan's the one who's like the father I never had. Well, don't say that, Mr. Loon, because I'm going to go out and get some cigarettes and not come home. So I'll be exactly like the father you had. Anyways, back to this one. Next one's going to be about a budget discussion that leads to a minor meltdown. And was this vision or was this the one relationships are transactional? 1 second here. Oh, it's a vision one. So it's going to be another one about the importance of vision. I think you'll like it. It's a little on the longer side, though. Was that because we had the Slate Star Codex thing? No. Nope. But we'll see. I'll kind of rip through it because it's kind of just retrashing, reheading, or re-going over old ground, but whatever. Anyways, let's get started. Surprise, surprise. Another guy does dread, becomes red-pilled, finds out his wife needs direction, and then is lost. It sucks for all these like catastrophic successes, but here we are. Welcome, MidsWatch, Ryan. This one here is going to be about a budget discussion that leads to a minor meltdown. And it's going to be a great example as to why vision matters. If you've read through Praxeology Volume 1 Frame, I talk about the red pill, the pillars of frame. There's a physical pillar, the emotional pillar, the intellectual pillar. The idea is there's 3 different areas of your life that you kind of have to build a foundation on. Know your limits, know what you're capable of, know the differences between men and women, the dynamics of relationships, and then the top of it is built vision on top of it. And this is kind of where you get into vision stuff. I don't normally talk about it because everybody loves to see introduction red pill stuff, and this is really end of the road, last year of university level stuff. So if you don't even have the girlfriend yet, or you just got newly married, or if you're just working on your dead bedroom now, this is the kind of stuff that's in store for you a year down the line when you sort yourself out. As per usual, I'll read through the field report, offer my own thoughts, let you know about prolific posters, Jack Tenahart's response to it, and then follow up at the end with some quick summary. So, over the last month or so, I've been doing a couple things to take care of the family finances. I got a new budget type, set up a pretty comprehensive budget, showed my wife how my earnings would pay for the absolute necessities, but nothing beyond that, so that she would have to start bringing in money if we wanted cell phones, cable, housekeepers, vacations, etc. So she got the picture, has a job interview next week, and it sounds like she got the gig if she doesn't take a dump on the guy's desk. She's also been telling me how much she appreciates me for setting the budget, working with her on the plan, and she's in fact been asking me to come up with a budget for a while now. Last night, I asked her to meet with me so we can go over the basics. All she really has to do is enter her transactions when she buys something and get her input on the budget categories and allocations. And she was pissy from the start of this. She announced that since all of my close friends live nearby, which is true, and her friends are all scattered over the country, also true, that we needed to have a separate category for her vacations to go see her friends. The statement was delivered with the heavy implication that since she was paying for all non-necessities, she would decide where to spend the surplus money. And I explained, that's not how it works. Her income will allow us to pay for more things, but that we would still have to jointly decide what we're going to pay for. And then I asked her what category she wanted to take money from in order to increase the vacation budget. So she starts crying and expresses how shitty it is that she has to do that. And it's been a theme of hers since we ever got married. She gets annoyed and irritated at the very idea of having to budget or be concerned about money. And up until now, the budgeting strategy has largely been asking me if we could buy this and me saying yes or no. And you can imagine how awesome that's been. So I almost think that this concept of financially stable means you don't ever have to worry about such things. She grew up in a stable house with a sweet beta-bucks provider and never had to budget in her life before we got married. I mean, of course she had $40,000 in credit card debt and $80,000 in student loans, but her dad paid off the credit card debt. So this is one of my wife's princess attitudes. I've called her on it before, and last night I didn't refer to it as that, but I just told her that if we want to get control of our finances, we'd have to get a budget and make tough choices. This caused more crying and a stream of consciousness rant about how I haven't provided any stability, which, to be fair, was true until recently, and that she has the right to be disappointed at having to budget at her age. And I'm like, no. So that I'm just going to have to start doing whatever I wanted without consulting her first, and he starts laughing. And then she brought up our confrontation from a few weeks ago and how hurtful it was, and how she couldn't believe I treated her that way. And so he's like, I just shut up. Shut the fuck up. I couldn't think of anything amused mastery to demonstrate. Then she launched into the argument from 2 weeks ago, and I'm just like, I'm not interested in talking about that anymore. She stood up, apologized for having a bad day, and went crying up the stairs. I stayed downstairs and jerked off before I went to sleep. I'm honestly not sure how to respond to all this. My inclination is to ignore it and go about my day. I don't want to reward her princess attitude. But crying sucks. At the very least, she needs to start entering her financial transactions into the system. And I've been considering moving all of the money out of our joint account, but I'm not sure that's the correct move, and I'm sure it would cause a gigantic shit fit. I guess I held frame, but it was a pretty annoying conversation. So, my thoughts first. One, it's been a common married red-pilled prescription. Anything you put in the joint account, you have to assume is a gift. A very, very solid way to organize your finances are for you to have your input into one, her to have hers in another, and then whatever joint expenses the family needs to function, you know, food, water, shelter, all that stuff, goes into a joint account. So that way, and the easiest way this is that way you just have to give your girl a number. $5,000 goes in here every month, $2,000, whatever. Put that number in there every month because women are horrible with money. I almost want to say, like, you remember how in cave cultures there was like you give the father 20 goats for a dowry from the girl that the dad had to pay. Like, we kind of have our own version of that now. Like, every girl comes with $10,000 in credit card debt. And I'm not even joking. Like, a friend of ours, when I was in Montreal, used to work at the bank for like financial advising. Yeah, I know. Anyway, she was like, yeah, it was crazy because like she took a look through our finances. She's like, oh, you guys are doing really well off. It's like, yeah, well, you know, I'm a bit of a saver and military, stable job, you know. She goes, yeah, every time I see a relation, like a couple in here, the girl always has like 10 grand in debt minimum. And the guy's sitting there with like a decent account and basically cleans it out. And I was like, oh, it's crazy. I also thought it was crazy that she's telling me private information from other clients, but whatever. Information is information. But a lot of parents, they just don't teach it. Like my girl, like teaching her how to budget was kind of like this too. It was part of my big red pill journey is realizing that girls don't know what money is. They think when a paycheck comes in, you need to spend it down to the last penny before the next paycheck. And it's just literally like points on a scoreboard. And so, yeah, my thought on this one is you basically have to become a ruthless dictator when it comes to money because girls don't know. Parents have failed them and they keep bailing them out. That's the other thing. If you're ever in a relationship and your girl's got a bunch of debt that she incurred on her own, and you think, all right, we're going to stick to a budget. Let me just pay this off and we'll start clean. Don't. It's not worth it. All you're doing is enabling the behavior. Yes, it's going to cost you a bunch of extra interest payments. Yes, it's ultimately going to be bad for getting credit in the meantime. But is the goal here to be debt-free, or is the goal here to have a family that doesn't go into debt? So sometimes you just have to suck that up and realize I should have been watching her like a hawk. It's the same as the dogs. If the dogs get into something they're not supposed to, it's not their fault because they're just doing what dogs do. It's my fault for not watching them. But enough about me. Let's get into Jack. So perhaps I'm being too charitable to you, but I don't think this guy is deconstructing his wife's emotions because he feels bad. I think it's more like a parent coming to a parenting forum and asking, all right, I tried all the tips and tricks to get Johnny to eat his vegetables, but he went apeshit and threw the vegetables all over the floor. And then he felt bad about it and said he was sorry, which he's not eating his vegetables. So what do I do now? What do I do now? So Op is trying to assert his frame in specific ways now. And I don't think he has any issues with boundaries on his wife. He could basically do whatever he wants, and I doubt his wife will give him too much crap. She's not busting his balls over errands. She doesn't nag him if he leaves the house. She fucks him on the regular. His issue is, as a first officer, his wife is falling short. So we have a lot of posts here like that. How do I get my wife to lose weight? How do I get my wife to stop fucking around on her phone all the time? How do I get my wife to stop being so irresponsible with money? And it's always some version of, how do I get? And there's no canonical red-pilled answer. I do think a consistently wrong answer is a grand decree that henceforth ye shall lose weight, which is what I spent 4,000 words telling the op last week. I also think the consistently wrong answer is just shut the fuck up, ignore her hamster, and you do you. I mean, clearly the guy can already do him. That's not his problem. His problem is he's trying to lead his family and execute on his goals, and his wife sucks. So summarizing this, he's not worried about the wife getting her way. He wants his wife to get his way, and for something that is essentially logistical in nature. So what's the advice for that? Now, with all that said, I think We nailed it with the idea of vision. Plans are good, but the most effective plans are developed within the context of a vision. And then he brings up some stories of Steve Jobs and his iPhone, where the engineers were working on the first iPod. They showed it to Steve Jobs. He said he played with it a bit. And he's like, no, it's too big. The engineers explained they had to reinvent a lot of things to create the iPod, and it was just impossible to make it smaller. So Steve Jobs went quiet for a moment, stood up, walked to an aquarium, dropped the iPod in the tank. After it hit the bottom, bubbles started floating to the top. He's like, you see those air bubbles? That means there's space in there. Make it fucking smaller. So without a vision, your plans will often be perceived to somebody else as annoying rules they have to follow. Steve Jobs had plans for the iPhone, but he also had a vision, and he gave his team consistent context they needed to be motivated to follow his exacting plans. Because without a vision, it would be as easy as an Apple engineer to get frustrated. It's not small enough. Says who? Based on what? If it's not small enough, what is small enough? Am I getting paid enough to deal with this bullshit? And I think that's exactly how Opp needs to approach the issues of finances with his family. If there's an argument, it should be about the vision. It should be aligned with the vision. He should have had a vision that involves future financial goals, like college savings, retirement. If his wife hamsters about needing more discretionary funds to see friends, well, that collides with the vision, and he should have made that extremely clear. If there's an argument, it should be his wife's vision versus his. His wife's vision is that she should have enough money to go see her friends out of town. His vision is he doesn't want to be a working stiff until he's 70. Obviously, the guy's vision wins. I do think women are more likely to buy into a vision-based blueprint than a plan-based blueprint anyway. Vision is an enigmatic thing. It's much more based on feelings anyway. So how did Steve Jobs know his iPhone was finally the right size? Because it felt right. You know, he held it. It felt good. And so he'd say, we got it. Tell Tim Cook to fire up production. So to summarize this one up, this is where, I laugh at these ones because guys always kind of find their way here. It's, how can I get my wife to fuck me? How do I get my wife to lose weight? And how can I get my wife to stop spending money? Those really are like the three biggest problems with wives. Stop spending money, stop being frigid, put down the hose. But they get there and they have none of the skills in place beforehand. They don't have frame, they don't have value of their own. They're just as lazy, they're inconsistent. And and this is why so many people like the red pill to a point. Because it's like, guys, fix your shit, clean your room. And everybody's like, oh, I can love that. It's great. I love getting into that. And then once that stuff is done, you went from, oh, this is a horrible relationship. Why is everything so wrong? To, I've got my shit together. Why is my wife so fucking useless? And that's the part that requires a lot of the work that people don't like about the red pill. It involves holding a woman to a standard. It involves, you ever want to piss a woman off? I'll give you a hint. It just takes a one word. What's the word? No. And trust me, try it at home. Let me know, report back. Let me know in the comments section. But I'm telling you this, she'll get mad and you'll be okay with that. You're past that. You have your frame. She's supposed to get mad because she's an emotional child. That's fine. But the thing that makes this go is she has to know what you have a vision of the future. It's not just arbitrary rules, because then it's like, I'm in charge, you'll put up with me, and it's just being bossy and nagging. That's why guys hate nagging. There's no overarching plan. There's no overarching vision to come with it. It's just arbitrary tasks being nagged at you. You can't stand it. So imagine when you start to do it to your wife, and probably she doesn't like it either. In fact, because it's so standard MO for a girl, she probably hates it even more than you do when it's thrown back at her. So for these things, once you get this point where you have a vision and you get a girl that's, submissive and willing to go along with you, you have to explain the vision. You have to give them a vision. And then every decision you make plies within that vision. It gives a framework so that when arguments do come up, the argument's not about where to go. It's not about whose vision to follow, because that's already sorted out. That's beyond reproach. It's about, how do we best implement the vision? Or is there something else that we don't need to sacrifice to get to that vision? And those are much easier arguments to have. They're much more level-headed, and people don't have screaming, crying fits saying you're being too controlling and then sleeping with the pool boy. But on that note, I'll let you go. I'll catch you on the next one. Okay. What are we at here? 58. Let me do some quick renaming here and I'll be right over. 1, 2, 3. That's not bad for today, I guess. We're going to probably get one more. Oh, I've been missing some stuff. Jesus, boys. Baka Shinji, 50 Euro super chat. Thank you very much, sir. Thanks for the lessons and knowledge that I never learned by myself in the past. Grazie. Grazie to you too, I think. I think that means thank you. And I swear to God, that's Italian or something. Maybe Spanish. I don't know. Yeah, that's just not girls I plumped up. But yeah, appreciate it, sir. Like I said, as long as... Oh yeah, what was the other thing too? So Clary apparently favorites these things and it does something. How does he do that? I don't even know. I'm gonna have to learn that skill. Dr. BL, $49.99 super chat. Thank you very much, sir. No comments attached, but that's okay. I think the appreciation is just good. May as well ask, how do I get my wife to not act like a petulant teenager? Well, yeah, girls are going to be girls, but that's the thing. It's consistent. And this is why I hate when guys are like, why do girls have to act like this? It's like they always act like that. That's a great thing. Because if it's consistent, you can work with it. And in this case, that's why vision's important. Submission and vision. The submission is hard. To be, have your SMV in check. A little bit of dread. All those things in place, you need to be that hypergamous best option. It's hard, and guys don't like it because you have to admit that you're not as awesome as you thought you were, and there's work to do. And then you get there, and then it's the point of like, okay, now what do I do? And that's the other thing I hate, because like you watch the trads, they're always bitching about, we need to step up and be better men. It's like, yeah, but you're not there yet. Because right now, your wife still thinks you're a fucking putz. And then those guys that know how to be attractive and they don't know how to go past there, they're like, fuck that bitch, she can do what she does. And that's why they keep going from 3 to 4 marriages, right? It's probably one of the reasons too. I tell you guys, it's hard to develop proper frame unless you're tested, and it's hard to be tested if you're not in a relationship. Just say what you will about women, but they're probably like the hardest, most consistent challenge to a guy's frame that's out there. So, but yeah. And I get it all the time, but that's the thing. A lot of it is just guys are afraid of their wives' emotions, so they put up with it. Can you really blame a wife for acting like a petulant teenager if it works every time she does it? I can't. All right. What do we got here? Oh, the sex rejection. So I got sex rejection and sidebar stuff. Yeah, we can do that. We can do that. All right. Anything else I missed other than the thank yous? Fair enough. This one you're going to like. It's about, I think, is this the one I said, training attention for sex? Yep. The transactional nature of relationships. This is the one that's going to piss people off because everybody hates that. They want, I want unconditional love. It's like, well, I want a back rub while I'm doing a live stream. It's not going to happen, though. Oh, I need a sec. Throat's starting to get a bit thin. Actually, you know what? Let's put on a quick tune. Something to kill some time for a second. Yeah. Actually, that's good to know. Dude, ever since that Windows update, it's completely ruined my system's there we go. Can you not hear that? Why can I not hear that? Desktop audio. Yeah, see, right now there's supposed to be some stuff playing in the background, but it's not. So I'm going to have to figure out why. I can't believe he's killing the vibe of the live stream. Oh, that's why I just had the volume down. Fair enough. All right, we're just going to do a couple minutes. Let the voice clear up. Where is you guys? Ryan, are you involved with Hawaiian Sophie? I don't know what a Hawaiian Sophie is. Here, I'll tell you right now for you guys, if you ever ask me who Content Creator X is, I don't know. I don't know. I don't watch. I don't like this space. I don't like the people in it. I don't like the content in it. If I don't regularly collab with them, I have no idea what they're up to, and even then. How are the allergies? They're doing okay, although I'm medicated to shit right now. which is probably why I felt like doing a chill one as opposed to yelling at chicks on Chick Talk. So that's on me. Fun fact, someone got a massage while live streaming. We all know who. Yeah, I don't feel the need to flex on you guys like that. It seems like a weird flex. I always hate the flexes online too, because they always feel so forced. All right, I tell you what, we'll have a contest now. The next guy to bring up a content creator, if I know about them, and if I don't know about it, we're gonna remove you from the channel. So if you're gonna take a guess, make sure you do a good one. Make sure you got a good one. Hard to tell with you. One day you revealed you knew Erudite. I didn't. Allie introduced me. She's like, oh, you might like her. And then we did like a quick introduction, then we did a show. And that's all I know. I still don't know her content. Torsha fucking hates her. Keeps sending me stuff. It's like, look what this bitch said about you. And I'm just like, oh, whatever. Oh my God, she thinks I'm not a great scientist. Like, I'll live. I don't think she's a great scientist either, but whatever. Missing the Chick Talk vids. Yeah, we'll get there. We'll get there. Like I said, I'll get all pumped up and start yelling some whammon again. Plus, all the TikToks are so old that I'm referencing now. They're like 4 months old now. Nobody will remember them, so it'd be like something fresh and new. Ryan hating a social media space is like a porn star hating sex on film. Yeah, well, don't get me wrong. I like this space. I like talking with you guys. I like dealing with the content. I like the material. I like getting better at making videos and that. The part I don't like is the reaction. Actually, you know what it is? It's like the reaction channel ecosystem. I cannot stand that stuff. Anyways, enough of that. I'm going to get back to recording. Oh my God. Man rejected wife for sex. Something's wrong. What do I do? Welcome to the MidsWatch. It's Ryan. Hope you're enjoying yourselves. This is going to be a fun one. The guy rejected sex from his wife 2 days ago. Anything to learn, or is he supposed to just move on? This is going to be the one that I'm going to be a little acrimonious on purpose here. I'm going to piss off the trads. I'm going to bring up how relationships are transactional. Relationships are transactional. The only difference is the currency you use, so you better pick one that you're comfortable with paying over the long term. As always, we'll start with the field report, and then my thoughts, and then the Jack 10 of Hearts commentary that goes after it, and we'll sum it up quickly. To start, I rejected sex 2 days ago. I tried to find an answer, but nothing was specific, so here's the backstory. Wife's been responding better to me being at the gym 5 days a week. She's given less shit tests, spotting the comfort test. I took over the finances. I'm out on the weekends with a lot of small projects my parents need done before selling their house. She's been noticing the changes from me hitting the gym, although minor, and she started flirting with me, which she never used to. I stopped talking with her about my issues. She's a stay-at-home mom with only a few friends, no family, so it's not much of a social life to speak of. I took some advice from here and stopped being her only friend and just listened to her feels about the lack of social life. Don't give advice. Since then, she's been finding new people to hang with, joined a couple of meetup groups, reached out and hangs with my mom once a week, which is awesome since her mom, when she was alive, was not a good influence. My mom, on the other hand, is still a pretty good person. House is clean, and other than some bad moods about having no friends, it's been an unusually good week compared to the last, where she threatened, emptily, to take my daughter and leave the state. Sex 4 times since then. Anyways, on to it. That night was one of the nights that she was feeling her lack of social interaction and feeling down. I got a hard no on sex, because who doesn't feel after better than sex, right? And when I came back, she was crying. I cuddled up, started to listen to her about her, and then promptly fell asleep. She didn't notice, and after that, she got up and kissed me and walked out of the room. 2 minutes later, she comes in and offers sex, verbally, I might add. We start a roadblock. Oh, your beard's too prickly. Yeah, I just trim it. I move on to foreplay. She blocks me again there. I don't want you to do all that work there. She's never been like this before, so I move on. Why aren't you kissing me? My beard is prickly, remember? Oh yeah, well, kiss my body. So I start and she blocks me again there too. Oh, your beard's so prickly, so I asked her to just get off, tell her it's not working for me, and I walk out of the room. She asks if it's because she was complaining. I don't say anything and I just leave. I go smoke, come back, give her a kiss, say I love you, and then we're both probably tired, and we try it tomorrow. And you can guess tomorrow. She comes and tells me when I go to initiate that we'll do it tomorrow. I push through that and get the hard no. She indicates interest and then heads to the other room to handle it myself, or I head to the room to handle it myself. She walks in and says she wants to watch. I tell her it's not a spectator sport. Either join me or piss off. So he went and closed the door. Obviously, she's pissed off today. Wasn't exactly starfish sex, but it was annoying as hell. I had the thought that after a long feeling talk and feeling sorry for herself that I should just go to bed because she's going to be too whiny. But she was so quick to blow me, I figured, hey, she's in a great mood. I guess I was wrong. What am I not seeing here? Is this a fucked up shit test? Was it the treatment? And I just pounded her harder, pulled her hair, carry on, and that's how I solve it. I know why she's pissy today, but I want to focus more on the middle of the sex BS. What should I have do? Just skip sex, trusted my instincts, or reject bad sex? If this seems obvious, then tell me, but I don't get it. Or just say shut up, and it's just something to blow through. First thing, I've talked before, I do a lot on the Patreon. If you guys don't know, we have a Patreon where we're kind of doing this stuff live with people in their actual lives, as opposed to you kind of living vicariously through other field reports. But usually when you're in a sexually dead or dying bedroom, there's two approaches to duty sex or starfish sex, basically a girl phoning it in. First one's called caveman. Caveman is where you basically will go in 100% selfish. Treat her like a wormhole, go do your thing, get out. The other one is like he did. You just zip up. It's like, you know what? We're not in the mood. You're not in the mood. We'll just try it another time. You're not angry. You're not hurt. You're not accusatory. It's the same thing. Like you went out to dinner, but the restaurant was full. You're like, we'll go somewhere else. It's that same level of indifference. And depending on what the problems are in your bedroom, either one of these responses will have a much different response from the girl. So it's usually a good way of A/B testing it. And if generally speaking, if just like going in caveman is your thing, the issue is you tend not to be, you don't have enough alpha or desirable traits to get a girl more into it like that. And that just shows you to step up more of your asshole game. Whereas is the second one, you have all that stuff in place and just a little bit of dread, a little bit of anxiety, something, basically getting her in the mood. And there's solutions to that. I won't get into it here, but it's always one of those good things to find out. So what do I do if my wife is just, laying there and doing nothing? Well, you treat her like a wormhole or you don't. And one way or the other, you're going to see what you see gives you great insight. So now for Jack. You're out of town, busy for a few days at a conference that was boring. Your coworkers traveled with are boring at best. Your trip back home is a pain in the ass. Flight delays, stuck between, two ham planets. You land, get your luggage, go to the curb, get your wife to pick you up. It's Friday evening. You're looking forward to seeing her. You had a relaxing evening in mind. You go to your favorite hole-in-the-wall sushi restaurant. Get a little buzz and some sake, go home and watch Better Call Saul, and then get a nice session in with her at some point between all that. She picks you up, you head back home, and as you're about to suggest sushi, she says, "How long until you're ready to go to my sister's?" You're like, "What? My sister, remember? We're having that wine tasting thing tonight." He's like, "Oh, fuck, I forgot about that." You don't mind her sister, but her and her husband love throwing these wine tasting parties that mostly consist of swirling red liquids in their wine glasses, talking about acidity and tannins. It's pretentious and it's annoying. Normally you'd go and enjoy yourself, but you just got off a long flight and you're exhausted. So the last thing you need is to get your party shoes on and taste wine for 2 hours. You're like, "Look, babe, I'm beat." She's like, okay, that's fine. I'll just go and go home later. Great. Now your Friday evening with your wife is up in smoke. So instead of sushi, sake, and sex, you're ordering some Chinese food and drinking a Diet Coke. Your wife's disappointed, and she was eager to see you and wanted you to go. So why don't you stay home too, you suggest? We can go every time. You can miss one. She's like, "I've been bored all week, and if you're not for going out, I'll just assume you'll probably just want to take a shower and pass out, right?" And you're like, "Oh." You want to hang out with your wife. You don't want to go to this party, and it looks like you're going to have to pick. You're like, "You know what? Fine. Fuck it. I'll go. Give me a half hour to shower and get changed." So you go, and you're going to be a good sport about it, right? You want to hang out with your wife. You know what'll make her happy. Except for once again, the universe conspires to throw annoyances in your way. Your shoes aren't comfortable, your shirts aren't ironed, you have to spend an extra 20 minutes getting stuff there, you're getting lost on the way, the wine comes out, you try and get yourself into a social mood, but you're just tired and cranky, your irritation builds, and by the time somebody talks about the structure of it, your wife can't stop asking questions about this goddamn trip to Spain that somebody's yapping about. And finally, some of that irritation erupts. It's red wine. Who the fuck cares? Am I allowed to say that, Rob? Can I just say I don't like red wine without a fucking thesaurus? Is that okay with you? And Rob flinches at your overly aggressive response. A few people glance over. You sigh. You say you need some air and you walk out. Your wife follows with the keys. Just take the car and go home. I'll stay. Why? Because of what I said to Rob. It's like, look, you clearly don't want to be here, so go home, get some rest. I'll stay over and get Alice, and she'll drop me off at your place tomorrow. And you're like, seriously, you're pissed at me? She's like, I'm not pissed, babe. I just wish that you knew you were going to act like this, because then I would have told you not to bother. So now it's your turn to sigh. But I just wanted to. She's like, I just wanted to hang out with you. Never mind you say you grab the keys and go to the car tomorrow. The hell am I talking about? That's an analogy. This is basically, you're seeing the reciprocal of exactly what that field report is. So I hope the analogy behind the parable is clear. You want to spend time with your wife, but in this case, spending time with her was conditional on an activity you didn't really want to participate in. That's where your wife's head's at. She wanted companionship with you. She didn't want sex with you. And you made it clear that she doesn't get one without the other. So she tried to talk herself into having sex with you. At least then, maybe you'd have some pillow talk and cuddle or some shit. So basically, she negotiated her own desire. It's not your fault per se. There's obviously a lot better than you, or I mean, it's obviously a lot better of a situation than you negotiating your desire. But it's still sort of the same problem. She wasn't really into it. But then when you withdrew, she felt bad, just as like you would have felt bad if you agreed to go to that party and then acted like a shithead. So if you want a general go-to move for this, you may want to consider suggesting you shower together. It's practical, you both get clean, it's intimate, you both get naked, but the transition to sexy times is a lot smoother. If she's talking and you're tuning out, the implicit message is, you either have to start trading sex for my attention or we're done here. And that trade, when it happens, is sometimes pretty abrupt. She'll just stop talking and then offer to have sex. In the shower, you can have a little conversation. Wash your body, she washes yours. More things you can do to tease out the foreplay. And if she just wants to talk and not fuck, well then whatever. You're still doing something practical. Whether you took a shower by yourself or while she's babbling about something, what's the difference? It's not like you wasted your time. That way you might feel as if she's just yammering at you while you listen and do nothing. And this is the important part. Whether it's showering or something else, look for this attention for sex trade. While she doesn't seem into having sex, but then offers it once you've withdrawn attention in some way, don't just say, okay, let's bang and go to Pound Town. She isn't horny for you, but she does want you. So you need to give her a smooth on-ramp. Get some emotional intimacy tingles, activate the tingles, it'll happen. Most women are wired this way anyway. Your wife is not particularly overt about it. They'll say things like, my favorite thing about sex is how close it makes me feel to you. Develop that connection. When she wants your attention, figure out ways you can give it to her, but in some intimate sexual context. When this works well, the connection can get so strong that you effectively skip the middleman. You'll be lying in bed and she'll be talking to you, and then suddenly she'll start getting wet without even thinking about it. Because, and if you know where I'm going with this one, this is the line, because you're blurring the lines between sex and intimacy. This will take time, but you're on the right track. In the meantime, if she's being annoying during sex, pause and just lay there. Talk it out a bit, ask her a favorite body part, tease her, mention you remember the last time she wore lingerie, and blah, blah, blah. Build some intimacy and then re-engage. All you have to do is make her feel loved, and then you can fuck the shit out of her. So to summarize, I have been talking a lot in these MidsWatches about the red-pilled concept of separating sex from intimacy. I'm hoping this little parable and field report give you a good idea on why you need to do it, what it looks like on paper, and how it's perceived from both sides of the spectrum, so that hopefully you can make some better decisions in your life. Remember, everybody talks about genuine desire, and from a red-pilled perspective, it doesn't exist. Women have sex for hundreds of different reasons, and because they're horny is like the 750th out of 800. In this case, it's just trading sex for intimacy. There's always the underlying concept of that in a relationship, and it's true, but here's the thing. Just because she doesn't want to have sex for the same reasons you want to have sex doesn't mean she doesn't want to have sex with you. She actually does. And when she's into it, she's into it. And if she's not into it at first and you guys are intimate and it goes fine, yes, she will get into it. Everything works out. You just got to stop following this idea that men and women are the same and that they need to have the exact same aligned ideas about what sex is that you do. Because it's not. You don't need attention. You don't need validation. You just need to scratch that itch. She's the exact opposite. She needs attention. She needs validation. And sex is almost like the feedback mechanism. You get these things that you like. You give this thing that you like. Then you get more of these things that you like. it continues and it iterates on the process. So if you're ever wondering why it goes from you getting a bit, in a huff, ignoring your wife for a bit, and then she comes back offering sex, don't think back to Rollo Tomasi's, the only agency a woman has is her sexuality. Go to it is, oh, she wants attention and validation from me, and sex is the currency. So is this the transaction I want to have? And if so, how can I make it a good and beneficial transaction for the both of us? So I'm going to leave you with that one. Enjoy yourselves. I'll catch you on the next episode. Cheers, boys. Fuck, I had forgotten all about that one, too. All right, let me see. Where do we leave off? Oh, yeah, I got to number it. One more second. This will be 57. Getting there. Mohammed, it can go either way. It really depends. Like I said, you have the vision of where to go with this one. She needs to have a life outside of you. Some girls need you to directly tell them what to do and give them things to do. Other women just need an idea of what the vision is and they can find it out for themselves. It's one of those things you really have to do on your own. Erudite seems okay until she's like, yeah, my favorite author is Bell Hooks. Who the fuck is Bell Hooks? Feminist theory, whatever. To be honest, I didn't mind it. It was kind of what I expected. It's the same girl brain stuff, which I'm not against. It's whatever. It's different. Until the point where she was like, like the trolley problem is a pretty known thing, dentological versus, whatever philosophy. And then when she's like, yeah, I want the man to jump on the train tracks, and if he doesn't do that willingly, then let's throw them on there. I was like, I got really jackboot for me and kind of gave me a pause. I'm like, dear God, do you know how horrific that was to hear? Jesus. Broly, he didn't trim his beard in the middle of foreplay. It was just recently trimmed was all. But that's the thing. It doesn't really matter. Like, guys who've had stubble, you've had girls say that's really prickly, and then other times he doesn't mind and he just kind of rubs it all over him. It's when a girl's in the mood, they ignore this stuff. And when they're not quite in the mood, this is the stuff that's hyper-focused. Just look at it as a buffer. That's all it is. Having said that, I'm laughing how the last two had guys basically saying, you know what? I'm done with her shit. I'm just going to go handle it myself. It's kind of funny. It's not unrealistic. Ask me how I know. None of these are unrealistic. That's what I'm saying. That's why I like this stuff. It's because it actually happens. I am sick and fucking tired of guys with their whole hypothetically. Fuck hypothetically. You don't need hypothetically. There's 500 examples of shit that really happened. I don't need your stupid hypothetical example of, well, what if your girl had a dick? It's like, shut up. RS, $5, 10-cent super chat. Oh, thank you very much, sir. Started dating a 20-year-old a few years after divorce, and boy, has it made me realize a lot of stupid stuff I do along with the red pill. Yeah. You got to remember, too, right? I think Rollo put it this way. There's been no... He calls me the last red-pilled content creator, which kind of makes me happy but sad at the same time, because, I've been around a lot. I've been, 8 years doing this, so I'm like, the fact there's nobody in the meantime who showed up since then. Everybody else just does reactions, hypotheticals, clickbait, and revenge fantasies. There's no real new red pill stuff. And if it's going to die, that's basically why. Just nobody to take the torch. Nobody's willing to do any of the work. The spaces that it was there have been, taken over by incels and Tate fans and marketers. And it's just, yeah. Scott, what the fuck? Well, I did tell you. Any chance you could do a video on the divorce between Buttwoman and Mr. Pete? The next guy to ask me if I knew content creators and didn't know who they were, he was getting the boot. He was getting the boot. Scott took his chance. I've got to give him credit for that. Anyways, let's throw something else. Just one more quick thing. One more song. Something chill. Yeah, let's do soft focus. Scott took up the challenge. Everybody's been pivoting. Good. I can't wait for them to pivot. Start talking about the 2024 election in the States. Fuck off out of my space. Leave me alone. Let me just do my thing. Let me just sit here and talk with other guys about our dicks. I can deal with that. Yeah. Oh, all these runs are good. I like that. This was surprisingly good. The MidsWatch playlist. Everybody doesn't realize this. Like, all of my content is evergreen. It's built on a playlist. The MidsWatches, the relationship breakdowns, the sidebar, most importantly. That's all this stuff is. And the only thing that's changed is my delivery's gotten better. Also, don't reject your wife for sex unless you have to. All right, the next one. Oh, that's the red pill stuff. Marriage discussion. Oh, blah, blah, blah. Oh, yeah, that's the Slate Star reference one. This one, I don't know how useful it's gonna be. Really, the only thing is like a neat story of what happens when your wife finds the red pill stuff, because a lot of guys still think of it as like secret knowledge that'll piss off their wife and they're afraid of showing it to her. Yeah. If only the single red pill guys were as good as the married red pill guys. We got Ryan, Chesty, Rollo. Yeah. Yeah, Chick Talks are on the go. I just basically between book 3, 2 different series on the second channel, 2 different series on this channel, the podcast, the Substack, just something had to give, and Chick Talks are the ones I enjoy the least, and so they had to go. Oh yeah, plus I'm training the girl for her ride to conquer cancer, so we've been doing a lot of biking lately, and that was an emotional hurdle to have to get past. If you don't know, when I moved to Montreal from Victoria, BC, got hit by a car, almost lost 2 fingers. And it had been, that's almost like 7 years ago now. Jesus. Haven't ridden my bike at all. It's been sitting there collecting dust. So we finally got out last year and started riding. And this year, now we're training her. So it's good. I mean, we did like 40K on the last one, and that was pretty easy. But yeah, I've honestly stopped don't identify with it. There's a bunch of, like, there's famous guys that you'd be surprised, like, love this content. They love this space. But they're like, yeah, I'd hate to come out and have people find out I'm here. I'm like, don't ever tell anybody you know anything about this, ever. Ever. And don't worry about all that nonsense. Just get what you need to do and get out. That's all you got to do. And this is why I'm so, like, perfectly happy to mute and remove people from the channel and that, because you got to remember, like, I love you guys. You guys are great. But in this chat, there's what, 100 guys? There's 10, 20,000 guys outside of this that watch this stuff that I'll never even know they exist. And they're the ones that generally do work. And so you have to remember, it's called audience capture. You can't let the audience tell you how to do your content and change how you do your content and influence you in negative ways, because then you're just basically screwing over the 20,000 quiet people. So yeah, and I'm with Alex. Yeah, the red pill is for dorks trademark. By the way, if you want to do, here's the thing you can do. Hold down the Alt key, hit 0153 on your keyboard or on the keypad. And you can do the proper trademark. So, little graphic designer tip for you. Oops. Not Windows. This one. Is a couple of the ASCII codes. There was 0151, which is an M dash, which you've never heard of it. Think of it the same way as like a semicolon's used. This provides, or like an ellipses, it's like a dramatic break, same as 0133. The ellipses, 3 periods. I already did, 0153. And 0004 is the diamond. Or is it just 004? Maybe it was just 4. Yeah, 4 is diamond, 5, 6, and 3. I don't know, it's just one of those things. One of those things I remember. Or just copy and paste it, you boomer. Why would I copy and paste it when I could just have it on the keyboard within half a second? Just open it up in your Charm app and then copy and then paste it and then whatever. Open it in Notepad. Yeah, no. Anyways, last one. Yeah, I don't know the one for the backwards question mark, but that's fine. So the next one's going to be about the wife finding red pill stuff. I guess I'll start the recording of that now. Dun dun dun. Your wife found the red pill, and now she's mad. What do you do? Oh no, don't worry about it. Welcome. MidsWatch. Ryan. This one isn't like a much of a hardcore. At least it's not nearly as heavy as the last few I've recorded in these ones. It's mostly just about wives finding red pill material, and it happens often enough. It's actually kind of funny the way guys find it, but we'll get to that in the thing. So as always, we'll start off with the field report of the guy, my thoughts on it, prolific poster, Jack Ten of Hearts with his marketing pitch on it, and then at the end of it, we'll summarize it. So starting off, the title plus this went better than expected. So I was at work. I have an old Kindle Fire. The wife thought it would be a good idea to power it up and give it to her kid to download apps for her upcoming vacation. I never thought about it, and it was just collecting dust. Apparently, the library's still linked. She booted it up and must have found No More Mr. Nice Guy, Married Man's Sex Life Primer, When I Say No I Feel Guilty, The Way of the Superior Man, The Art of Zen and Motorcycle Maintenance. The last two obviously aren't bad, but the first four she got intrigued by. Thank God, Sex God Methods and The Rational Male are online and read in incognito. The wife gets herself and me a beer and asks me to join her on the patio. I'm heating up the coals for dinner, so I didn't think anything of it. As soon as she mentions the old Kindle, I know what's up, and I'm preparing the I'm self-improving speech. The kicker is that she read parts of all of them during the day. So now she knows why I've dropped 30 pounds, taking back control of the finances, and been hitting the gym for the last couple months. She's not pissed. She knows what's up to a degree. She only asked for one answer. Why did you start this? What caused you to start upon this journey? That's her words. I held frame throughout this. She made it easy. And after dinner, we had a lengthy talk about our marriage, what I find wrong with it. The only sidebar material we really talked about is Married Man's Sex Life Primer, and I don't say anything about the red pill or married red pill. She mentions that I brought up things I'm unhappy about before, not enough blowjobs, sex is infrequent, no cuddling, no making out. But the last time we discussed this was before the red pill, and I then, for the first time, start to confront her in a very non-threatening way about the things she said to me over the past 2 years that caused me to start realizing this stuff is true, and eventually leading me down this whole road. Things like, my two greatest fears are losing everything I have, and that is all I'll ever have. I'm sad that I'll never experience a first kiss again, and a few other things. This is from the wife. She's totally forgotten ever saying those things and insists that they must have been in the context of something relevant. As you can imagine, that my shit is locked in my brain forever. I told her that I was trying to avoid bad marriage shit by taking it on the head before things got that bad. I had seen cracks in the armor and wasn't going to wait for anything to break. I told her I've learned a lot of things to make me a better man and that she'll be a beneficiary of that. She agrees, still taken by surprise. She thinks it's egotistical to think that by changing myself I can help her with her shit. I told her I can't, but I can help by being more of a man around the house and taking care of myself. So I tipped my cards and gave one example of my implementation about how it's been going. I told her that when I used to ask her for sex, she turned me down. But now that I just initiate, she doesn't turn me down and we have a lot more sex. And she admits sex has been good the last couple months. She then asked me if there's any books about this stuff written for women. I was taken aback and told her I didn't know. She said they're probably titled, Just Suck That Dick, You'll Get More of What You Want. She also added that she had a talk with a friend about her idea of a submissive wife coming up. The wife said it was a religious right movement and this is gaining traction. I told her I was aware of it, and it is similar. By the way, we are Christians, but not religious. We had sex later that night, and I instigated instead of asking. So I retired, initiating the 10-second kiss. I remember she hated this, so I didn't like it anyway. She just went with it. Maybe it helped, maybe it didn't, who knows. I probably shouldn't have victim puked to her all, but I hope I did it in a way that allowed me to maintain frame, stated I saw a problem, and identified a solution. And this is me owning my shit, I'm guessing. So, first thoughts on this one. Everybody is told, stop trying to red pill your wife. Don't tell your wife about red pill. And everybody thinks that means it's some secret cabal of woman-hating misogynists, and your wife will leave you if she ever finds out. And that's not the case at all. Nobody, doesn't matter. Like, obviously my girl knows this. I'm doing this for a living. I've written 2 books on it and about to write a 3rd. Like, she knows. But the reason you don't mention it is because you turn it into a covert contract. She sees all the tips and tricks, and you think, well, as long as that, now that she's on board, we can do this and it'll be a problem-free life. Just because she knows it's here, it doesn't change. It's like makeup. Just because you know it's there doesn't mean it doesn't work. The other thing on this is your shit tests change. Like, she'll start calling, oh, you just think this is a shit test, don't you? And she'll start using the lingo from the book to fuck with you. You don't need that, especially if you're just new and learning what's going on. And granted, he talked way too much about this. But there is something that I think is really important that a lot of guys miss out on, where So she has some little lines, like really hurtful shit too, right? Like, oh, this is all I'm ever going to have. And my biggest fear is that I'm going to end up being old and alone. And this is all I'm ever going to have. And her, it was just some flippant feeling. She had a moment. It was gone. Didn't even remember saying it. Or, it sucks that I'll never get to have my eat, pray, love phase, shit like that. And she didn't think about it again. Not realizing that this kind of stuff, guys remember this stuff. We'll remember it for a lifetime. And so girls don't really know. Like, forgive them, Lord. They know not what they do. So if I could give advice to girls, is that when you're emotional and you say some hurtful shit like that, try to be more empathic or empathetic, because you're probably going to do some things to crush a man's spirit, but they won't and they can't. But I mean, it took that kind of slap across the face to lose those wife goggles for him to become the guy he wants to be. And he did the smart thing when he always framed it as in what's best for her, because that's how girls think. They're solipsistic. What does this mean for me? And if he says, I'm trying to be a better plow horse for you, I'm trying to be a better man for you, it doesn't matter what he's doing. It's how she perceives it, and then she tends to be better off with it. So, I mean, it wasn't handled the worst. He was also talking about, like, books for wives. So there actually is one. It's called The Surrendered Wife. And it's by, what's her name? Laura Doyle. I've never read it. But all the red-pilled women all suggested amongst each other. So if a girl ever asks, is there anything for me that can help me on this thing? Offer that book. And then if anybody has ever seen Blow Your Man, He'll Do More What You Want, I would put that in the comment section. I'd love to see that book. I think it'd be great. Hopefully it's a picture book, but yeah. And then beyond that, I just like how it's like, you know, it's just one of those stories. But Jack 10. So he's like, when my kids were born, I went with a financial manager, reviewed things like retirement goals, life insurance, etc. The thing that stuck out with me is that anybody in good health needs to plan on living till like 100 years old. Which means in your 30s and 40s, in the throes of parenting, it's easy to forget that you're going to be looking at maybe 50 more years. And your kids are going to be adults, and then it's just you and your wife. And if the marriage is going to last that long, there needs to be more than just pleasant companionship, complementary parenting styles. Otherwise, it's too easy to have thoughts like, you know, the greatest fears I have is that this is all I'll ever have. To rear their head in a woman's hamster wheel once the kids are old enough to be self-sufficient, and then begins her eat, pray, love phase. A few years ago, she even gave me my "Are you having a midlife crisis?" shit test. And I'm just like, she may think a good husband is somebody who financially supports the family, is responsible enough to nurture, educate, and discipline the kids. But is that how she's going to define a good husband in 10 years? What kind of man will she want to be married to then, when the situation where she doesn't have to be responsible for anybody else but herself? Kind of get where he's going with this one? If you guys haven't seen it, Rational Male's got a great female timeline. He's talking about the resurgence phase. And this is why most marriages, when they break up, the kids are about 5 to 6 year old, when a father goes from being essential to being nice to have. And that's just it here. So it's like, yeah, that's great. You love this great father stuff. But what happens when the kid turns 6? You still going to find it that way? And that's why you can't take your cues from women. And as far as the egotistical stuff, he's like, you know what? The above thought exercise is how I've framed my various self-improvement efforts for my wife. It's the easiest way to explain the alpha bucks approach. The bucks becomes a lot less valued when the kids are adults themselves. Anything she'll still want in a husband afterwards will unquestionably be alpha. And there's actually a lot of material in this kind of stuff from liberal and progressive sources, bringing up the whole right-wing thing. Scott Alexander is pretty goddamn blue pill, although he has some pretty interesting thoughts on why angry young men are finding solace in the red pill. And he raises some interesting points in his attempts to play devil's advocate with reactionary philosophy. And then he brings up the story, and this is off topic, but I think it's kind of interesting. And he's talking about how women have been lied to and how a lot of the reactionary stuff is against it. So, like, imagine two options. You're working from home, you're your own boss, your job description is spending as much or as little time as you want with your own children and helping them grow to adjust to the adult world. Or a job in the office where you have a boss and he wants you to get the report by yesterday, or she's going to throw your sorry ass on the street where it belongs, and there better not be any complaints. Now, assume both jobs give you the exact same amount of social status and respect. And now, assume a bunch of people come along and say, well, actually, only losers pick job one, and you're not a loser, are you? And then you have to watch all your former job one buddies go and take job two and be praised for this, and your husband asks why you're not going into job two and being contributing to the family and eventually just give in and go to job 2, but you've also got to do portions of job 1, and the extra income miraculously fails to give your family any more money. In fact, you're better worse off than before. Obviously, you can see here he's talking about being like a boss bitch versus a stay-at-home mom. And he's like, is it so hard to imagine a lot of women will be less happy under this new scenario? Of course not. Most feminists say it's okay, it's reasonably okay, but let's not, let's use feminist own criteria in this one. Suppose Disney puts out a bunch of movies where all the female role models only ever take that boss bitch role. And they're real women, and the villains are the stay-at-home mom types, And then brief messages. Well, of course, working at home is totally okay too. Do you think feminists respond, yeah, we have no problem with this? After all, they really did flash that small message at the end. And he was bringing up, like, yeah, on this stuff, is it any wonder that women have no direction? You have 2 options they could take, but the one option is just hammered home constantly. Peer pressure, Disney fantasies, all that stuff. Women are lied to their entire life. So is it any wonder that all you'd have to do is just offer a little bit of status and they'd be taking the option 1? Now, that's more of the traditional thing. But it's kind of interesting that you see a lot of people when they just realize that a lot of the boss bitch feminist stuff really is just corporate gaslighting. So, but what does that have to do with your wife finding your red pill stuff? Nothing really. The only thing really to take from it is just realize that women don't know what's best for them. Every influence on her doesn't know what's best for her. You didn't know what was best for you until you actually had to think about it. And now that you have a plan and a way ahead, feel free, bring her on for the ride as long as she's willing to act like the good wife. And like we quoted in Praxeology for the Dominant Man, the only thing that matters when she walks through that door is the role of wife, of mother, of lover, that kind of thing. So as long as you can keep that in the back of your head, doesn't really matter how it implements. She can have a job if she wants to. She can be a stay-at-home wife if you guys handle that. Everything's going to come with its own challenges and its own responsibilities, but throughout all of it, the only way it'll work in the long term is with the praxeology of a dominant man, aka you. And then just don't forget a lot of our SMV stuff. What she's attracted to at 23 isn't the same thing she's attracted to at 30, isn't the same thing she's attracted to at 40. And so just understand that you don't want to hyperfixate on just being the desirable alpha, because that works until she gets baby rabies and wants a kid. And then don't just be the good father Matt Walsh, because that's going to work until she's 37 and the kids have moved out of the house. You just got to kind of be flexible with this stuff and try to become as attractive as you can in as many different venues as you can. So, it's not my favorite lesson, but it's a good one. So I'll catch you guys in the next one. Cheers. All right, last one. Proper care and feeding of husbands by... Yeah, I'm not reading that shit. Already with the title. Couldn't help but notice you seem to act like a parent that just pound your fod at first. Yeah, well, I mean... Yeah. To be fair, I don't know. That one's going to be... it'll probably do well because it's one that I can't stand. That's usually the way it works, the stuff. And I'm like, not a big fan of this stuff. And you guys are like, it's the greatest thing ever. I'll never understand audiences. You guys make no sense to me. All right. Get you guys out of here. Oh, the recordings list has gotten huge again. Well, that's good. Been watching a lot of content from Ryan and the boy lately. Who's the boy? Yeah, I don't know. It's just how women word things. I was open with my girlfriend about the red pill, and now she's just challenging more now. Of course she is. Because you just basically said all this stuff that I'm doing that's attractive, I learned it in a book. So of course she's going to test you more over it. She wants to make sure she's talking to you and not some fucking book. Oh, your dog will red pill you, sir. Your dog will red pill you. Yeah, I mean, I agree. This guy Riminal's in here. Alex is like, yeah, I think the guy handled it well enough. He did. Ideally, you don't even broach the topic, but, if it's there, it's there. It happens. But yeah, that's probably as good as you can handle it. You always err on the side of saying less rather than more. Because just remember, your wife's not on your team on this stuff either. She hasn't done the submission yet. You're still working at it. So imagine trying to convince somebody that something's in their best interest when they don't have buy-in. Do you really need to push it that hard? And the harder you push it, the more it's probably not going to sell. So definitely. Clary is a man-child, not a boy. I know, he does fine. Clary just words things in his way. Generally speaking, he and I see eye to eye on a lot of stuff. I think that's all I've got for you guys here. Yeah, my voice isn't going to be handling another episode. Unless you want me to start sounding like this. Fucking dying. And don't worry, allergy season will be done by May, if I'm not mistaken. Although we'll see. Toronto weather right now is just brutal. We've gone from 0 degrees to 30 degrees to 0 degrees. Pearlie's going to sue the pants off of Garvey, and Ryan's going to write his book, Godspeed. Fucking Pearlie. I don't know, we'll see. I can't wait till she pivots to politics and becomes the new red pill black and leaves all this shit the fuck alone. That'll be nice. No problems with her. I get she's just trying to do her thing, but like, fuck. Professionally, it is embarrassing. Anyways, I got nothing else for you guys. So enjoy the rest of your week. And I guess the next thing for me will be Substack writing on Tuesday. So I'll catch you then. Cheers.